All right, I will call the meeting to order at 6:34. And the first thing I will do is add an agenda item for executive session to discuss a legal memo if it is deemed to be necessary by elected board members. So that may happen in the course of discussion of the first agenda item. And at the time at which board members are interested in doing that, after introduction of the meeting and topics, then I would invite board members to make a motion to that effect. All right, so I want to begin by making clear that this is not a hearing. It is response to a formal complaint pursuant to board policy A1. And the purpose of this meeting pursuant to that policy is to consider a formal complaint that was received, and that policy is board member conflict of interest, which states policy is the ethical and legal duty of all school board members to avoid conflicts of interest as well as the appearance of conflicts of interest. Defines conflict of interest as meaning a situation when a board member's private interest, as distinguished from board members' interest as a member of the general public, would benefit from or be harmed by his or her actions as a member of the board. When a conflict of interest claim against a board member is brought to the board in writing and is signed by another board member or a member of the public, and the board member against whom the claim is made does not concur that a conflict in fact exists, the board procedures will be followed. The following board procedures will be followed. Upon a majority vote of the remaining board members, or upon order of the chair, the board will hold an informal hearing on the conflict of interest claim, giving both the board member and the person bringing the claim an opportunity to be heard. That's the policy that's relevant here. To be clear, this meeting is not a hearing on the conflict of interest claim, but rather a meeting to discuss whether, if the contents of the claim are true, could this constitute a conflict of interest? Then to determine if we believe that a hearing is necessary by a majority vote of the board. So I just wanted to make clear what this is and what this isn't. And I want to remind everybody that we will conduct this in a respectful tone and with respectful words, and that we will do so with a degree of professionalism that's appropriate for us as board members and community members attending a board meeting. Per the policy, Elizabeth and I have communicated regarding whether or not she concurs with the complaint of board member conflict of interest, and I'll invite Elizabeth to make a brief statement regarding whether or not she concurs that a conflict exists. This isn't an opportunity to present a defense, but rather a brief statement to address whether or not she concurs that her actions constitute a conflict of interest. And if it's determined that a hearing is necessary, there'll be an opportunity for Elizabeth to present a defense at that time. Elizabeth, do you want to
Yep, you're ready for me. Thank you, Kim. The complaint brought forth against me, I do not agree with it. It was brought forth against me on May 6th. It has no merit and it's based on false accusations. The first false accusation is that I wrote an article utilizing a title with racist and sexist undertones, when in fact I did not author nor title that article. The second false accusation is that I benefited in some way due to this article. Again, since I did not author it, I did not receive payment nor any personal gain from it. The complaint then goes into detail that I have a crusade against equity work, when in fact what I did was ask questions of our equity director, questions in which members of our community have asked me. I uphold my responsibility as a school board member to make certain that the community and parents receive full transparency in their schools, and that I represent their desires and goals for our district. I am beholden to our constituents and not to an agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. All right. In that Elizabeth is the subject of the complaint, she's recused from any further board discussion regarding the complaint and from the vote. If board members wish to discuss the legal memo or guidance, then now would be an appropriate time for an elected board member to make that motion.
I'd like to make that motion, please, Kim.
Thank you. And would you like me to read the motion, Erin, or do you have
If you
it?
don't mind.
Sure. Pursuant to Title I, Section 313A1F, to discuss confidential attorney-client communication made for the purposes of providing professional legal services to the body, and finding that premature general public knowledge would clearly place the public body or a person involved at a substantial disadvantage. Somebody want to say so? I think that was Erin, so moving.
Yes, so moved.
Okay. So elected board members, exclusive of Elizabeth, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. So public, I think Beth is going to move elected board members, exclusive of Elizabeth, into executive session. Public will remain on mute during that time, and the board will return for a discussion of the complaint with respect to whether or not we will hold a hearing. And again, I'm going to remind people of the need for professional decorum and respectful communication. I think we probably are within our rights to turn off video as well, but I feel as though this is not the place for platforms. I am inviting people again to come to this conversation respectfully and with a degree of kindness and generosity. This is not a process any of us have been through. So the board, I think, is going to, Beth, are you ready to send us into executive session?
I am working on that. And also, are you inviting student members and
No, the students
or
will,
no?
the students will not be attending, and we, with the opportunity to potentially invite in our attorney who is available by call. Mr. Bailey, I'd like for you to take down your sign, please. Thank you. So I think best probably, it would not be necessary. If necessary, we can come out and invite you in.
That's fine. I am trying to get everybody. I'm going to open the room and then I'll look, or a board member can speak up. There's just so many people on here.
Thanks for your patience, folks. And now the board will, having reviewed legal opinion, come back to have a conversation regarding the complaint as it relates to our policy. So deliberation, conversation, I'm going to try my best to keep our conversation to that lens. And I invite board members to do that as well. And again, Elizabeth, you're still recused from the conversation and the vote. You'll be invited back in to our conversations a bit later. But student board members, you are welcome to board deliberation on the topic. And public will have an opportunity after the board has had the chance to deliberate and before the vote. I want to let people know that will be, depending on how many people wish to speak, the public comment section will be 10 minutes and 30 seconds, or if there's fewer than 20 people, it'll be able to be a little bit longer than that. So just to give people a heads up. All right, so fellow board members, would you like to share thoughts as we consider this complaint? And the complaint is up at our website now, I believe. I know board members have it as well. We needed to redact some personal information and viewed this as a sensitive personnel matter. So while not confidential, treated it a little differently than our other materials until we could take care of redacting.
Kim?
Yeah, Sarah.
I just wanted to bring up a point in referencing one standard in our policy that I think can be applied to the allegations in the complaint. would be that from the policy, a board member will not give the impression that his or her position on any issue can be influenced by anything other than a fair presentation of all sides of the question. And so I do think that it's incumbent on us as board members to be impartial in our work for students, families, teachers, and staff of the district. And if we want, as board members, transparency, conversation, and communication on topics, then that must be first in our minds at all times. And that's
Thank you.
all I have to say.
Thanks, Erin. Would other board members like to share thoughts regarding thoughts or opinions regarding the complaint and our policy?
Kim, I'd like to speak if I may. This is Brendan.
Yes, please, Brendan.
Sorry, I
Go
can't be on
ahead.
video at the moment.
No worries.
So I carefully examined the wording of the allegation, and I also compared it to our existing policy. And our existing policy, I think, is taken from a template from the Vermont School Boards Association website, where it's really mostly concerned. The majority of that policy is really concerned with financial impropriety and a conflict of interest where money, taxpayer money, may be in jeopardy in some way. And so while I agree with the statement that Erin just made, I don't believe that there really is enough evidence in the allegation that matches with our code, with our policy, that justifies or necessitates a hearing in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. Know that I saw Andre's hand.
Sure, thank you. As a board member, one thing that we must also realize is that we're not always going to be in agreement or disagreement with the consensus as presented, and as individual board members, we do have that right to be in disagreement or agreement with anything that is presented to us. But I concur with Brendan and Erin regarding the nature of this complaint, because one thing I want to point out is that the board member did not author an opinion as a board member, but authored the opinion as a community member. And I think that's a distinction that needs to be realized. Nor did they author the article in the what was quoted. So I don't think it falls within the realms of the board policy regarding improprieties or conflict of interest of a board member. Thank you.
Thanks, Andre. Would anyone else like to speak to the complaint and the policy from our board?
I think the only thing that I would add to follow up what Andre said, which I do agree with what he said, the only thing that I would just add to that would be, though, that if we are an elected member of this board, I don't think that we can simply just say, depending on what forum we're speaking or posting, we can't just opt out by saying, I'm speaking as a community member. There is a broader responsibility. Once again, this is in my opinion. We don't just get I don't want to say free pass, but just by saying, oh, and by the way, I'm just saying this as a community member. I mean, I think being on the board, there is a little bit of an added layer of responsibility in that. Andre, I don't know if you agree, but I just wanted to add that. Please feel free to follow up with what I said.
I do hear what you're saying, because in the previous employment, one thing that was always we were always told was, do not embarrass the service with your actions outside your work. Or so that to some that's where I think I understand what you're saying, and I agree in part with what you said.
Thanks, Andre.
I think, Erin, to your point, we all wear multiple hats. And so I think that is our challenge in participating as elected members, and how we carry ourselves and represent ourselves, or how others perceive our representation matters, and it's spoken to in our code of ethics. So we have that on the agenda to review as well when this conversation is complete and this action has been decided upon. Are there any other board members who want to speak to the complaint and the policy? I think if you raise your yellow hand, you'll come to the front for me, because I have a lot of screen, a lot of panels. I'm not seeing others. Al, did you? I couldn't tell if you were. No. Okay. I can't tell if we're on. You're on mute, Al. I just want to.
No, I just concurred with the previous comments, and the complaint really did not meet the board policy A1 criteria.
Thanks, Al.
Okay.
Any other board members? Students? Not putting anybody on the spot. It's totally fine.
Actually, Kim, I'll say one thing, that I understand the perception of the complaint. It doesn't rise to our current policy, but I understand why people feel unsettled. And, wearing my many hats, I could understand how somebody could misperceive any of the numerous positions that I've been elected or appointed to. And when you have those positions, you get a certain body of knowledge. Some of the pieces that come with that is that you've got to be upfront and express that it is your opinion and your best of your knowledge, and that you are being truthful with the constituents, because they put a lot of trust into you. And I just wanted to say that I think I can understand why people are ruffled by this, and I just want to express that.
Thanks, Diane. Going once, twice on board members. Okay, I think then, as I described, I'm going to ask for people, as we do often when we do public to be heard in the beginning of a meeting, to indicate by raising their yellow hand if they wish to speak. And I can then, you'll all come to the top. If we have more than what is available for the time we have, we're either going to go alphabetically or in the order they come in. I want to give people enough time so that I know how many folks are here and interested in being heard. If I believe people can probably, okay, I was just going to say, if for whatever reason people are having trouble raising their hand, if you're able to unmute, I think you can shout it out, but you should find your hand under reaction. We're probably all doing pretty good.
Yeah, I'm having trouble finding it. Let's see.
John, did you find it under reaction?
Let's see, where do I go?
It's not there.
There's like a smiley face at the bottom under reactions.
No, not there. What do you know?
Huh, okay.
Anyway,
Well,
if you can take it under advisement, here, I can give you a yellow hand.
yeah, thanks, John. All right, well, I know you came in the first 20, so I will add you to the list, but I'm still going to ask folks to stay on mute if they can until we're clear. And then I think I'm seeing those hands come to the top of my pages, and I'm going to.
Yeah, Kim, it looks like we could maybe do about 30 to 45 seconds each based on the numbers I'm seeing.
Yep. Yes, I think we should be able to do. Yeah, I think we can do that. And I think we're going to be able to go with, I believe we've got 45 seconds probably. Well, they're still coming in. So I think I will invite people in case others wish to raise their hand later to keep their comments to 30 seconds if possible. And you will be cut off by 45, I think, right? I'm just looking, I see 8 hands right now, 9, including John's. Okay, Erin, are you able to be the clock keeper and I'll be the hand watcher?
I'll be the clock keeper, and I can't mute people though if they go over, so I'll just have to raise my hand, or I don't know how you want me to do that. But.
I think Beth, if we get to 45 seconds, if you can mute, please. Thank you. And Erin, if you can give people a warning at 30 seconds, and then you can say 45 and Beth mute. I just hope folks can help us in giving people the respect of balanced time here. And
I don't want to have to mute anybody. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you all helping us out on this. This is new to all of us. So
everybody.
All right. So I will start with Eric, please. Eric Bailey.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So Liz was elected by the up until now silent majority. She's not a racist. She's just a breath of fresh air of common sense and fiscal responsibility this board so desperately needs. As far as critical race theory, while there are some places in the United States that, you know, minorities have less opportunities because of finances. I think that critical race, bringing down the bar is not right. Bringing up the people impoverished is the right thing to do. And in Vermont, we don't have to worry about that. We have Act 60. So they're funded lovely, regardless of income. That's why we pay so many taxes in Essex to pay for, you know, towns that don't have as much. So,
and that's 30 seconds, Eric.
So I just would like the board to, you know, have a little bit more understanding and such of those folks that don't agree with their point of view. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Ray Garofano, you are next.
Thank you. Thank you for the board for the time and the opportunity to speak. I just wanted to express my concern that this complaint was publicized widely before the board made it public, and sensitive personal information was in the hands of national Republican media, which is really concerning to me for our community. I feel like if Ms. Katie is representing the constituency in Essex, Vermont, and Westford, then we should keep those interactions in our local community. And the attention that this is getting nationally is really, really
Ray, I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm so sorry. That's 30 seconds.
No problem. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Christine Stone.
Hello, thank you very much. Again, I'm part of the silent majority, obviously, and I've had many issues with the school board and things going on in the school, and we're politely listened to always. Everyone's extremely nice, but nothing ever happens. None of our concerns ever make it to a board meeting. We're literally not included in anything, which is why we elected.
Everybody mute that's not speaking currently. Christine, are you set? Oh, Christine, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Did you finish?
No,
I didn't know if you finished.
Well, I thought you cut me off, so I just was complying.
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. I don't know who that was. There was just some kind of.
Somebody else.
I'm so sorry. I was being see, I'm not that difficult.
No,
No, I'm sorry.
I think,
Please continue.
Okay. So it's actually very concerning to me what's going on. I mean, there is no representation in the State House. There's no representation at the school. Of course, everybody wants my money and anybody who disagrees money, but we are just completely not listened to. I think it's great that some recognition is given to this problem and that we realize that there is a marginalized population. You don't.
Christine, I am going to have to now give you the time on that one. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
thank you. Helen Donahue.
Hi, I'm the parent of a member of the EHS class of 2025. She has been in the school system her entire life, and we've been delighted with it. And we all in our family strongly support the work of the school board on equity and inclusion, and we appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. And John, I think I'm recalling you to be in here next, John Deravan.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, thanks a lot for this opportunity to speak to. I do concur with most of the comments made prior to this, so I could piggyback off those. My initial comments were going to be, I think the board moved in the right direction on this one, in that the complainants, they cited some things, and they in their complaint, they said that Liz Katie should, as they didn't point that out, but as a member of the board, you should agree with the rest of the board. And that's not how healthy boards work. The boards have been engaged in healthy dialogue of disagreement, ferreting out the facts from fiction, and then coming to a final conclusion. So once again, I think the board did move in the right direction on this one. And I do concur.
Thank you, John.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Brian Sheldon.
Hi, I just wanted to say that I disagree with the interpretation that the COI policy was not violated because Ms. Katie didn't make any money. The state representatives in the state make $12K a year. So there's very little money to be made in Vermont politics. Given that, why would the policy mention partisan politics if the requirement was that you had to make money on partisan politics? I also want to echo some of my concerns that the unredacted document was released to the press before it was even made public, and that concerns me that perhaps some school board members are not dealing with private information appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Annie Cooper.
Thank you. I would ask that the board have Erin Knox repeat her statement made at the beginning of the return from executive session. I agree with it wholeheartedly. I believe that Erin's interpretation of how this should go is appropriate, factual, true, and really needs to be looked at for this decision this evening. I'm very concerned about the publicly leaked information and about how fast that went nationwide. And if that's not confusing and concerning to all of us here, it should be. And then thirdly, I feel strongly that our board needs to, I wish I had written Erin's words down. They were so true. It needs to be that we're listening to all sides and that there's not an opportunity for there to be partisan politics at play.
Annie, I'm sorry. Nope. Sorry. I hate giving the hook to people.
Thanks for being the bad guy, Erin. Sorry, or Alexis. I'm gonna say it wrong. I apologize.
Hi, I would like
Hi,
to.
Alexis.
Thank you. I would like to support some of the other comments that have been made about concerns about the leaked complaint that included the full first and last name of the two complainants. I think that if you are trying to stifle dissent and tell a message that people should not, in fact, take action against you, leaking to highly partisan internet, outside of Vermont sources is one way to silence future dissent. It's a form of doxing and bullying, and I find it highly concerning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Richard and Molly Jesse.
I just thank you for a few moments. I would just like to make the comment that in my view, the complaint itself had a scent of bullying to it, I believe. And it's my opinion that there's absolutely nothing wrong with ruffling feathers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Caitlin Gregory.
Hi, I'd just like to say I think Elizabeth Cady's doing an awesome job. I think she speaks for a lot of concerned parents about this equity policy that segregates children into race groups. And I think it's totally awful. And I think MLK would be very, very ashamed of what's happening in Essex now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lynn Smith. Ms. Smith?
Yes, I have written my comments. Elizabeth was duly elected by her district. She ran on the same platform that is now being called into question and as a conflict of interest. Obviously, the voters in her district wanted her voice to be heard. Also, the mantra of Essex has been to allow all voices to be heard. Isn't that the mantra of equity? Yet her voice is being silenced because she disagrees. I believe that we need all voices at the table, and I believe that her voice should not be silenced.
Thank you.
Megan Humphrey. Megan, maybe you are muted still, or it doesn't look like you're muted, Megan. Are you still there? Megan, we might be having a technical difficulty. You don't appear to be muted. So I'm going to move on to Rachel Kahn, and I see Laura Taylor and Andrew Snyder in that order.
Thank you. As a parent of 2 students in EWSD schools, and soon to be a 3rd, and a community member, I not only fully support the equity work that is happening currently in the district, but I'm also deeply uncomfortable with the interpretation or perpetuation of the idea that equity work is synonymous with segregation. I think that that's a manipulation, and the repetition of that makes me deeply uncomfortable. I'm always comfortable with folks having different opinions about how schools and communities should function, but creating a misleading narrative about what the work is not appropriate, and it's not helpful for anyone.
Thank you, Rachel. Andrew Snyder. Oh, I'm sorry, Laura. The yellow hand's not up, but I do have Laura on the list too. So Andrew and then Laura. I don't see Andrew's hand anymore, so maybe not. Laura and then Gavin.
My name is Laura Taylor, and I am one of the 2 community members who filed this complaint against Liz Cady. This is a serious complaint, and we did not take the decision to file it lightly. Our concern is that Ms. Cady brings her partisan agenda into her role as a school board member, which has, I think she's proved my point over the last few days with all of this information showing up in these Republican news sources. And I do want to speak to the fact that I think that this is an unfortunate waste of the board's time and energy that you even have to deal with this. I hope this is resolved really quickly, and so that the board can continue to focus on what's really important here, and that is educating each and every student in our school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Gavin.
Yes, hi, thanks for letting me speak. I just want to say, I lived in Vermont. I've paid taxes since 1987 into the school system. And now I have a son who is ready to enter 9th grade, and he was going to go into Essex High School. And basically, from what I've seen and what I've experienced from the school and your treatment of Liz Cady, it's just another opinion, which and CRT and trying to promote that. I am now currently trying to find alternative schooling for my son. That's where you guys have put me. And I just want to let you know that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin.
Andrew?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, first I've learned something from this meeting, that number one, board members give up their autonomy as a private citizen. Okay, they're not allowed to speak outside of the board. Secondly, I wonder how many other board members are intimidated by the actions that have been brought against Elizabeth Cady and are afraid to speak up at the various board meetings. Okay. The other thing was wondering, I hadn't learned here, but how many dollars have been spent on this critical race theory and equity? Critical race therapy, and according to Wikipedia, says that critical race therapy is loosely unified by two common themes. First, the white supremacy societal racism exists and maintains power through the law.
Andrew,
second,
I'm really sorry, but you've reached your time limit.
Really?
You have.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Feel free to submit in writing if you wish.
I have.
Okay, thanks. Dan, F, and then Megan, and I'm pretty sure we're at the end of our 10 minutes.
Hi.
So Dan, F. Hi.
Hi. As a Latino, I embrace Liz Cady's opening of this conversation and dialogue. I think it's healthy. I think it's going to open up greater conversations. I encourage her to speak her mind, and I encourage the people that are against her to speak her mind. I think this is a very engaging conversation that needs to happen in the public. And I'm not the slightest bit concerned about the complaint. And as I said, I haven't heard, as a Latino, I'm all in favor of what she has to say and her airing her voice, and then you as the board declaring your voice. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I've had my hand raised since the beginning. I just wanted to make sure that you saw me. I've been trying since the very
sorry, I
beginning.
hadn't, Christina, but I will add you. So Megan and then Christina, and then we are gonna close down public comment so the board can get on with action on the item. Okay, go ahead, Megan.
Thanks, Kim. Sorry about the audio before. I have 3 kids in the school district, and I'm really proud of this school district for doing work on racism and equity. When I was coming up through the school system, public education, we were not taught important racial and ethnic history. And being critical and being able to look at critical race theory and understand the root causes of racism and the things that our students of color deal with in their lives is very, very important. And when we are taught things like communism in school, we're taught all sorts of different theories. It does not mean they're pushing a communist agenda.
Megan?
It means schools are exposing you to different trains of thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Christine.
Hi, folks. I just wanted to say that, again, it's about perception. This is not about money. Liz Cady is the only board member that I have seen on this board, and I'm very new to this, who I can clearly see has a very specific ideology and agenda that she's sharing with these other news sources. As a board member myself for an HR organization, I would never, ever participate in any other sort of discussion outside of the board, right? You have to leave yourself open to be open to all of the opinions, and I don't feel that she's there. I'm also ashamed to hear the words pro-equity were used disparagingly in the letter of support from Ron Lawrence for Liz Cady. There is no reason why we shouldn't all strive for equity, and I am here to help Essex strive for equity.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you. All right, so we're closing public comment, and I'd like the board to return to the question at hand. We have a question before us regarding a formally filed complaint and a responsibility to consider it through the lens and the confines of our equity policy as it exists today. Based on our conversation, the information that we've discussed and deliberated here, I am wondering if we are ready to call the question with a motion on how to proceed from here.
So moved, Kim.
And do you have the motion, Erin, or should I read it? Because I don't know whether the motion is to hold an informal hearing or to not hold an informal hearing.
I move that we not hold an informal hearing.
Okay. And if I can
Is there
add
anything else I need to add?
I was just going to add language to it, if that's okay. Are you open
Yes.
to a friendly
Yeah, go ahead.
amendment?
Please
Thank
do.
you. Erin moves based on the board's review of the complaint made against Elizabeth Cady alleging a conflict of interest pursuant to board policy A1, board member conflict of interest, that the board not schedule an informal hearing regarding the complaint.
Yes, so moved.
We don't need a second. Is there any further board discussion? I don't see any hands. And so board members, then I will ask you, elected board members, exclusive of Elizabeth, to, for those in favor of not holding an informal hearing, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand if they can even be seen. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And any opposed? I'm not hearing any or seeing any abstentions. Okay. And so the board will not hold an informal hearing based on this complaint pursuant to our policy. Thank you all for a respectful conversation about a challenging situation. And I think I'd like to take a minute to return us to a conversation and invite Elizabeth back as a board member into the conversation. On the 27th, I read through the board code of ethics for school board members. And I think one of the things that has struck me is the concern that we've certainly read and heard from community members that somehow the board isn't interested in having diverse opinions at our table. And I don't think that could be further from the truth. I think it's our responsibility to have open, honest conversations at our board table around those matters over which we have responsibility as board members. I think that we have a common expectation that that is in our roles and responsibilities, and we should be doing that. And we should feel free to have those conversations at our board table. I think that there are particular areas, and maybe, Beth, I don't know, are you able to screen share the code of ethics? It might be beneficial to just have another brief review, but a commitment as a board that we want to review this more deeply to have clear that we have a common understanding of what this means in terms of our work together and our responsibilities as board members. I don't know, Beth, if it was like in the board package.
Can you see that, or do you need larger?
There we go. Does that help people? So I think we want to, the very top statement I think is critically important, that as a member of the Essex Westford, I think just call it school district, the stuff in the middle was what we were formed as back when we unified. We remember that our primary concern must be the educational welfare of the students in our district and excellent return on investment for taxpayers. We agree to conduct ourselves in accordance with the following commitments. And I want to point to a few of them. We act within the scope of our official roles. I think that we need to be clear that as a board member, we're not assuming any individual authority and that we're not giving directives to staff. Those are two areas I want us to be cautious of. No, our one employee is our superintendent, and there is good reason for there not being the confusion of direct outreach to individual staff members. We have occasions where we have staff that are providing support to us as a board on our bodies of work that may lend themselves to directly being involved in advisory groups or things that we're working on. But otherwise, those communications of matters that are within the board's domain would go through the chair and through the superintendent to the appropriate staff, come back so that the board operates at our board table in our decision making within the realm of our responsibilities with a common base of knowledge. That's the critical importance of that. So I wanted to point to that one in particular. Again, I think all of this is important, and I read all of it on the 27th, and we voted unanimously to adopt it. So our highest ethical standards, again, gets back to contractual matters, but I think that the notion of where we are in a space of needing to recuse ourselves if we are conflicted or there is an appearance of conflict of interest, I think is important. And I think I'm just pulling out a few because I want us to dig deeply. I want us to have a deep conversation about what these words mean. And if they aren't saying what we need for them to say, to have a common understanding of how we operate together and how we hold our responsibilities as board members, even as we come to these tables with differing opinions and a multitude of hats that we wear to inform our conversations at this table, that we do so with respect for peers, constituents, and confidentiality considerations. We voice our opinions respectfully and we treat people with respect. We maintain confidentiality. And, you know, I do want to say that the board, in consultation with our attorney, recognized that the complaint itself was not a confidential document, but rather that it contained within it sensitive personnel, if you will, information, and was shared with the board in preparation for the meeting, not because it was going to be necessarily hidden from the public, but there were pieces of it, as were referenced in this meeting, that contained personal information, and the content of which was of a somewhat sensitive personnel matter. If it were a staff versus a board member, it would have been an executive session, you know, privilege, if you will. So I do want the public to understand our delay in and adding it to the website, and our interest in redacting phone numbers and other such personal information. I want to ask any board members if there are any questions regarding what we have here, not for a deep unpacking. I think we've handled the major action item on our agenda, but a brief discussion if that seems warranted to board members for clarifications that might be important for us to make now. Thanks, Beth, for sharing.
I'd like to just quickly echo something that you said, Kim, which is, you know, I too heard some of the comments, you know, about, I think it really couldn't be further from the truth that we would want everyone on this board to be in lockstep and all be in agreement all the time. I think anyone who serves on boards knows that a board functions at its best when people are able to come together and sometimes have differing opinions and work through that with the common goal of the end result being what they believe to be obviously in the best interest of the district. And so, I mean, many times there's conversations where I think we can all say we have not been in agreement, and we work through it as a board because that's our job. So I just wanted to just add on to that, Kim.
Thank you, Erin. And I think I will add to that. We are guided by our vision, which was informed by nearly 1,000 people participating in the development of that vision when we formed as a district. And growing hearts and minds today and tomorrow, every day, every way, everyone, is the commitment and not just words. And it is the driver in the work. So I want to echo your acknowledgement, Erin, of the importance that these are important conversations to be having at our board table respectfully and asking questions within the domain of that, which is our responsibility as board members. Those open conversations and willingness to hear one another and our diverse opinions will inform the best decision making. I think the challenges in having opinions preempt discussions, preempt our public body having the opportunity to share and listen and learn from one another together. So I invite us to be careful with the perception of how we represent ourselves, because we, again, all wear a multitude of hats and come to our work with perspective and background that really makes for rich conversation and decision making. And, not unanimity necessarily. That has not always been the case on our board at any topic matter, but boards operate by a majority vote and positions taken are based on a majority. And that's important to understand as well. If we are not giving ourselves the opportunity for this conversation together in public at our board table, then I think we are shorting ourselves the opportunity for rich and impactful decision making. Any other board members with thoughts or questions regarding the Code of Ethics? And I don't see any. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I appreciate the interest in our work and how we do our work. I appreciate that this is the subject of this special meeting. And we are recognizing that we need clarity for ourselves in understanding our policies and our code of conduct and code of ethics. And I look forward to us working on that together as a board, and that our board meetings can be in a space of focusing on the work we're responsible for and be conducted in a respectful manner among ourselves and with the public who invest their time in joining us. If no other board members have any comments, questions, concerns, I think I would, do I need a motion to adjourn? When will I ever know this, folks?
Second.
Annie, thanks, Scott. Annie, I don't know if that's a new or old hand, and if it's quick, we could probably go with it. Is that old?
No, it's new. I don't know if I misunderstood, but I'm hopeful that there will be some work done to wonder how confidential information was publicized that you hadn't put out yet.
I think what I was describing in my understanding of the situation is that it was, while not marked confidential, there were, there was a reason why we took our time to post it today, because there was personal information in the complaint. And so it was not sent to the board as a confidential document. It was a formal complaint. And so I can't presume to know. The board had it, and we were intentional about making sure that it was a sensitive personnel matter, if you will, as a board document, and it was not confidential. Our attorney said it was not a confidential document, but again, the version that's posted redacts phone numbers, and that was the delay in us posting it today. So
I appreciate the conversation. I don't think I made my point clear. I'm only saying that I'm not certain how the information became nationwide publicly available when the school had not released it. That's what I'm confused about. And I don't know if you are also confused and concerned.
I think that it wouldn't be a topic for today's meeting, but I think we did talk a little bit about our code of ethics, and I think we have more work to do in that area. So I think, yep.
That's great.
All right, board members, I see us to be done for the evening. And again, very grateful for, this is new for all of us, and I appreciate everybody's patience and generosity in allowing us to do our best work to prepare to hold this smoothly and respectfully. And I hope people walk away feeling that was in fact the case. Thank you all for your interest, and we are adjourned at 8:05.
You tomorrow night.
Yes, that's right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks, Kim.
Good night, all. Thanks for attending.
Good night. Yes, thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Okay, take care.